Welcome to the Cold Brew Chick podcast. I'm your chick, Rachel, a blogger and lover of all things cold brew. Join me as we discover and learn from some of the greatest minds in the cold brew industry. Not a day goes by without a cold brew by my side.
Yay! Hey Nick, it's so good to see you. It's been, my gosh, when was Coffee Fest? That was quite a few months ago, huh?
Yeah, when was that? I've lost all track of time. COVID, it's just I don't know what day of the week it is anymore. Yeah,
I want to say August or September.
I
Feels
think
like.
you're right. Yeah, that feels about right.
And what was
Yeah.
crazy about that event was not only was it the first Coffee Fest in a while, but that was the first time that you and I had ever met in person after years of Instagram following and communication. And
Yeah.
I'm not lying, I fangirled a little bit when I saw you.
Oh, I'm blushing. As you can see, I'm blushing.
Yeah,
It's cool. It's cool that we had we've been friends. Like we talk all the time. Every time you posted, even still, when you post about coffee things, I'm like, where'd you get that? How is it? You actually helped me with finding out more coffee places and cold brew spots to check out, but also on an e-commerce side, looking into other companies and what they're doing. So I applaud you. I appreciate you and what you do. It's awesome.
Oh, shucks. You're starting the podcast with such a sweet compliment. I'm so excited. But really quick, for people that don't know who you are, I mean, you're kind of pretty much a celebrity, but in case people don't want that title.
No, I mean that's fine. It's very humbling. It's humbling.
Well, you do have the blue check mark on your Instagram, so
I've got the blue check mark. Yeah,
you made it.
One day it just showed up. I've been asked before from other musicians and people on Instagram. They're like, "How'd you get it?" I'm like, "I don't know. Literally, I woke up one day and it was just there. I don't know."
You got marked. You were checked.
I got marked. That was it. Yeah.
For people that don't know who you are, could you introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Nick. I am a musician. I'm 39 years old. I had to think about that for a second. Been in the music industry for going on about 20 years. I just started bands in high school, and literally the day I graduated as a senior, the following day I went on tour and just never looked back. And I've gotten into various other things throughout my journey, but really, I'm in a band called Sleeping with Sirens, and just recorded a new record, and that's what I've been with that band now for, God, 7 or 8 years. So yeah, and coffee is kind of something that's been in my life throughout all that, which I'm sure we'll get into. And that's pretty much all about me. I live in LA. Did I miss anything?
And no big deal. You guys are going to be performing at what's deemed to be the biggest event of the year. What is it? I forget the name of it.
It's called When We Were Young.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely broke the internet a bit, and subsequently broke my phone and my email and my text messages. It's been a long time since something like this has really exploded that we've been a part of. So I don't know, it's been really cool because with COVID, there hasn't been a whole lot to get excited about as far as being in a band goes. Just because we haven't been able to do much. We've been at home and just working on a record and just kind of being in the dark a bit with what's going to be happening within the industry and touring again. So it was kind of nice to just be a part of that festival announcement and just having it go completely wild on the internet. So very cool.
Yeah, there were people that I didn't even know were into that type of music posting about it. I mean, it was just all over my feed. And then, of course, I saw your guys' name on the poster and I was like, yeah, go Nick.
Yeah, it's crazy. I had known about a few of the bands that were on it, but they kept it a really tight secret. So even we didn't know until the day before, seeing the full bill. And definitely my first reaction was, is this real? Is this a real bill? Because this is pretty next level. So
And
yeah, really, really excited.
And for people that are wondering what we're talking about, it's kind of, what would you say is like the genre? I feel like it's music that almost everyone listens to, but what would you say like the genre of music is
I guess,
specifically
I
for
mean,
us?
I guess it falls into like a nostalgic emo. Is it emo? I guess it's like emo, like pop punk thing.
But like
It's always so hard to
approachable,
like, what's that?
but like approachable pop punk.
Approachable. Yes. Yeah. Very approachable. I mean, you've got like My Chemical Romance and Paramore and I think what like All American Rejects. Like it's a lot of bands that we all know that we
Yeah.
all yeah, like they were a part of some point in our lives, depending on like how old you are. Like they kind of, I feel like when we were young, Fest really covered a wide spectrum of people from my age where it's like nostalgic music, but also people that are younger, like teenagers even, like
Oh,
they did a really good job. So yeah.
I had to put my hand down when he's a teenager. I'm like, oh, I'm not that young anymore.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really exciting. It's gonna be interesting how it all goes, but I know the promoter that's doing it, and I'm sure it's gonna run real smooth. It's gonna be really cool to see. It's awesome to be a part of.
Well, I know I for sure, and we're going to get into your cold brew brand that you've created. But something I want to highlight to people listening is I've wanted to have you on the podcast in some way, shape, or form for a while now, even before I knew you were creating a cold brew company, because you are someone that has been so vocal about your love for cold brew and how you have incorporated it into your life as a musician. And that's how I found you. I say this with love. I hadn't listened to your band before,
That's cool.
but
That's totally fine.
but I saw, right on your bio, you said cold brew enthusiast, cold brew lover. And I was like, oh my gosh, this dude really likes cold brew. And it was very clear in your posts. And so kind of what I want people to learn about, and I want to get into more, is how did that develop? And as a musician, what role did cold brew play in your life to the point where, you highlighted it, in your Instagram bio?
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's coffee, right? Like it doesn't seem I mean, I guess I shouldn't downplay it. Coffee is a big thing to a lot of people, especially I think that cold brew has become a much bigger like cultural thing, and Starbucks kind of really amplifying cold brew and what it is, and that's a whole discussion in itself. But um, for me, I found cold brew at a time in my life where I had to make changes in my health. It's about 6 years ago now, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, that um, I was I was obese. I was very overweight, and I was planning on proposing to my now wife, and just had a moment of I'm not living my life just for me anymore. Like I can't treat my body like a dumpster anymore, just to be frank. And I have to make changes because I now going to commit myself to a partner, and it's important for me to take my health more seriously because it's not about just me anymore. So I started diving deep into my what can I do to better my health. And the one thing was cutting out overly sugary drinks and creamer and all these things that was it was part of my morning ritual, was dumping a half gallon of coffee mate with more sugar in it, and these really unhealthy coffee habits. And one of the first things that a buddy of mine told me was cut that out in the morning. Like cut out the creamer, cut out the sugar. But my issue was is I've had crippling acid reflux since I was a teenager. And just black coffee was always very acidic for me. It was hard for me to digest. I would get like insane, like painful heartburn from drinking regular coffee. But I knew I had to make a switch, and I loved coffee. I was like, what do I do? And I started just going on Google and looking at coffee alternatives, and cold brew was one of the first things that popped up. And it wasn't a very popular thing at the time. I kind of had to really find out coffee spots that offered it. And fortunately, I lived near a Dark Horse Coffee in San Diego. And I said, I'm going to go try, right? And I said, I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go try a cold brew and see if my stomach can handle it, how I react to it. And I fell in love instantly. It was such a moment of like, what is this? It was such a like. There's a lot of things in life that people experience, and you hold it really dear to you, and it's like that was a moment for me, and I just got so hooked on how do I how do I make this at home? Like, how do I do that? And just deep dove so hard into it, and it became a ritual for me, like a morning thing. It became a hobby. It became like a therapeutic thing for me for with like building something from scratch, like grinding my beans and figuring out the best ways to steep and steep times. And I don't want to say I became obsessive over it, but I just really found a therapeutic process through it, and it helped me on my health journey. I didn't get heartburn from it. It helped me with losing 40 pounds and getting to a healthier weight. And I just fell in love with cold brew. I mean, I love being able to make it on tour and sharing it with my band and sharing it with our crew in the morning. And it became, like I said, like a morning ritual for us. Like Nick made some cold brew, and we would just spend 15, 20 minutes in the morning with me with like saying, cool, I found these beans in Iowa yesterday and made a cold brew with it. Like, let's try it out. And that just became a really fun thing for me to do on tour because it was something that I was sharing with others around me. It wasn't about just like me anymore. It was about like having fun with it. And then I started posting about it more and more. Like found this great cold brew, I tweet something like cold brew is making my day a hell of a lot easier today. Or thank God for cold brew. And our fans would start asking me about cold brew. And um, one day we were on Warp Tour, and I got a tweet from a fan, and they had been in line since like 2 a.m. or something. And they're like, I'm so tired. Like I could use a cold brew. And I poured them a cold brew that I made. I went out into the line, and obviously shocked fans are like, what is he doing out here? Like giving this girl, a fan, one of his coffees. Like, what is happening? And I remember the girl taking a sip of the cold brew, and she was like in shock that I came out to do that. And she was like, this is so good. Why don't you sell this? And that kind of spawned a whole thing, which we'll get into. But yeah, obviously with how much I'm talking about it, like there's just a really deep personal thing with cold brew. It goes past even the coffee aspect of it. It's just brought a lot of positive things into my life, and has been a part of like really fond positive memories. So yeah, that I could talk about cold brew forever.
You and me both.
Yeah.
I love your story because I resonated with it so much. I mean, so much of what you said, I'm like, that was me too. The exact same, dealing with the acid reflux, going through my own health issues as well. Remembering your first cold brew, you never forget your first. And I love too that it was in San Diego too, in Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you still say is like one of your all-time favorite cold brews.
It is. It's absolutely like I've traveled the world touring, and it's a mission to find cold brew everywhere. And Dark Horse still, like they created such a great cold brew that has stuck with me from day one, quite literally. Mm-hmm. And I think they're masters at what they do. Masters.
San Diego legend. I love it.
Right.
And I love too that you took that opportunity. I mean, that's quite literally my dream, is to just be able to go around the country and try out different coffees and cold brews, and that you got to do that while on tour. And I'm sure it's something you're going to continue to do as you resume your tours now that, we're reaching a new point with COVID. When you were doing that, were you always, playing around with different methods? Did you, from the beginning, because you're also a big Alto cold brew fan, so from the beginning, was it always Alto cold brew? Was it playing around with different methodologies? Kind of just, how did you figure out your own version and way that you wanted to make your cold brew?
I started on Amazon. So I remember just going on Amazon and looking for cold brew makers. I remember at the time, the first cold brew maker that I found, it's gonna bug me. It's a Japanese company that makes them. It's like it's just in a glass, like tubular looking piece of glass, and there was this like brown filter that would sit at the top of it. And I remember the first few times using it going, it's not completely soaking the beans. Um, Everything I was reading was, you want it to be completely sealed. And I remember there was like these holes at the top that didn't make sense to me. And I just started buying more cold brew makers on Amazon. I did, like the like metallic mesh filters that you can put into a mason jar.
Yeah, I
And
remember
that
that.
was like, and that was that was better. And I liked the mason jar aspect because it was easier and it was just a bigger vessel for the coffee to breathe. And you start getting into all like the science of making cold brew. And then I started seeing more filters being sold on Amazon. And I think it might have been you actually that how I found out. It is. You were the person that I found out Alto through. I remember
Well,
you had like a special code, and I was like, I want to try out their filters, and that changed the game for me. Of like, this is by far like the best way to make really fresh tasting cold brew. So yeah, thank you for doing that because now I do a lot of work with Alto. So that's all you right there.
I always kind of laugh when this happens because I don't consider myself an influencer or in that space. But when I hear people like you say that, I'm like, did I just influence somebody?
You did. You did. You absolutely influenced me. That is so awesome. I didn't even put
Um,
that together until right now. That's so cool.
oh my gosh, which that code still exists, by the way. So if you're listening and have never tried Alto, use code CHICK for 20% off plus free shipping on your first order. Had to plug that in.
You should absolutely, yeah, you absolutely have to use it. Listen to her, folks. Listen.
And listen to Nick. I mean, I think you and I both, ever since we both have started using it, we haven't used anything else. That's just been our go to.
No. And with Charlie Royal, all of our cold brew bags use Alto filters. Alto does our packing, our filling. Like Alto is awesome. Really, really great people, great company.
You heard it here first. Well, probably not first, but you've heard it from two very beloved customers. So you need further endorsement than that.
Absolutely.
You got it right
Absolutely.
there. So I'm curious to know, if you
Yep.
go back in time and think to all the different coffee shops that you've been to. I know you don't quite probably track them, say like I do with, posting about every single shop you go to and exploring, but are there any that stand out within your travels of cold brews that just were amazing or different or anything unique that you found?
Interesting is that it's kind of, I don't know if it's like a biasness, but I still feel like probably the best cold brews that I've had really have been out of San Diego. I think that San Diego, and this, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that would agree with that within the industry, is that San Diego is such like a mecca for cold brew. And I feel like they were kind of at the beginning of all of the cold brew craze. And you could go to so many coffee shops, 5 years ago in San Diego. And for the most part, they all had cold brew programs. Um, what's been interesting is that I've been able to actually see as I've traveled on tour is cold brew now is becoming a thing. When I was when I first found out about it and I was on tour, cold brew was not an easy thing to find, especially overseas. I would be in Europe, in the UK, and they would know what cold brew was, but just didn't offer it, mostly because of how cold, generally cold, those areas are, that they just didn't really think that cold brew would be a popular thing. But now going back since then, cold brew is definitely expanded in all of those countries. But besides San Diego, I would say that Australia is really, really great about cold brew, but there's something about their coffee that sticks with you. I don't know I don't know why or what their process is, or if it's just a because of where they're located, but the coffee in Australia still just stands out to me so much. Like it is so delicious. And um yeah, I think that besides San Diego, I think that Australia just is top notch when it comes to coffee and cold brew in general.
It's funny that you mentioned Australia because like if you were to ask me that question, that is not what would come to mind. But when you think
Yeah.
about it, like the Mr. Black, the cold brew coffee liqueur that's become super popular, they're from Australia. I've
Oh,
had
cool.
I've had some cold brew from Australia as well. And it's all been, like you said, it's been fantastic and it's very like strong and bold, which is how I like my cold brew.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're kind of like us here in San Diego and you in LA, like it's cold brew weather the majority of the time. So
All
it
year
makes
round.
sense.
Yeah.
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 I love that
What
you said
about
that.
what?
Hmm?
But what about you? Like where? Because I know you've traveled as well. Besides
Mhm.
San Diego, like what are spots that have stood out to you as far as cold brew goes?
Oh gosh. I mean, I'm still, this is going to sound so biased because I am from San Diego, but I do agree and believe that San Diego is the cold brew capital of the country, just because there is so much that we do here, so much cold brew that's available. But I was pleasantly surprised by Portland, actually, and
Yeah.
Seattle.
Yeah.
And
Good
I
call.
had high expectations going in because these are, very well known coffee
Ab-
cities. So
Absolutely. They're coffee capitals for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they left me very satisfied and very happy. And also Indianapolis, believe it or not. When I went
Really
out to
cool.
Indianapolis for Coffee Fest, you would never think of it as a, coffee city. But
Yeah.
trying the local roasters that were out there and their cold brews, I was very pleasantly surprised. They had some really just
Awesome.
unique, fun flavors that you normally don't taste in cold brew.
Very cool. So when I go back on tour, I'm gonna hit you up and you gotta let me know the
Oh yeah.
spots to go to, especially when I go through Indianapolis.
Yeah. And El Paso, actually. El Paso had some good cold brew too.
Really? Awesome. El
Yeah.
Paso.
Yeah.
Wow. El
All
Paso on the
places.
come up. I love it.
I
I love
know.
El Paso. That's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, but it's crazy. There's still so much. I'm sure you feel the same way, even being to more places than I have. There's still so much to explore, right? And maybe that's the beauty of coffee is that you never stop exploring
That's
when it
the
comes
fun
to it.
part of it, right? Yeah, and it's still exciting. And you can go to another country and try coffee that you would have typically never tasted in the States. And they're so excited about it too. There's always this amazing excitement when you go to artisan coffee shops anywhere in the world, and there's people that just love coffee and love what they do so much, and it shows in their drinks when you try them. Like it's made from like a passion and from a love, and that's always something that's exciting for me when I'm on tour. Like it's such a fun ritual in the morning because I'm an early riser, so I'm up by myself in the morning on tour, and I typically just go on my own morning journey by myself and find find coffee, and that's fun for me. And then just trying something new in a place I've either never been to or haven't tried, like properly try like their local coffee, and that's exciting. That's fun to me. It's a lot of fun.
See, you're like living my dream. Maybe I should have been a musician instead of a dietitian. Something to supplement you.
I mean, you can still go on tour. Why not? Like, just get in your car and just drive. Who cares? Just go. Just just go, just do it.
I know. I do love a good road trip, and I definitely want to do more now that we have restrictions lifting up with COVID. I'm curious
Yes,
with you too, also because you had the same experience as me with the acid reflux. Now I'm at the point I can drink hot coffee with no issues. Are you the same way as well, or do you still experience acid reflux?
totally fine now. It's like it's once I
Oh.
got down to a healthier weight that
Hmm.
that all changed. But it was also changing other things in my diet. There are still things actually that would flare up probably still to this day. I can't drink orange juice for the most part. Like, for whatever reason, it's so acidic for me. And I don't drink anymore, but when I would drink some red wines, that would sometimes flare it up even when I was healthy. But
Hmm.
fortunately, um, black coffee now, just straight up drip coffee, whatever it might be,
Hmm.
is totally fine. So thank God.
Wow, interesting. So now, because of that, do you find yourself kind of exploring more hot coffees, or do you still find that for the most part you pretty much only drink cold brew?
I'm really just no, hmm,
You can confess, it's
I,
okay.
no. I feel like 9 out of 10 times I'm drinking cold brew. I have recently gone on a cortado kick. I've been really enjoying a good cortado. Now that I'm sure that you feel the same way, but once you drink really good coffee, like when you have a really good premium coffee bean, it's like life changing because for the most part, most people are used to Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, and it's not even to knock them because they've definitely helped put coffee on such a massive global, scale. But and it's not even to talk trash of what they do, but when you try really good coffee versus kind of just cheap beans or beans that have been sprayed with a ton of pesticides and all these other things, it is a night and day difference. I always tell buddies of mine that are drinkers, I go, when you go to a bar, do you want the Jose Cuervo, like the well tequila, or do you want the top shelf good stuff? They're always going to say the top shelf because that tastes better. Same thing goes for coffee. And um, I've and now that I've really gone into the world of coffee more over the last couple of years, I enjoy really good espresso. So we have like a little espresso machine at home, and I, for the most part, will just drink espresso straight up, like a cortado. I love a good latte. I love a good iced latte. But I feel like for the most part, I'm always just going for the cold brew.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, you and I are like exactly the same. Like 9 times out of
You know
10,
what's
yeah, I'm
up.
having a cold brew, but there are 1 to 2 days a week where maybe I have like I really like espresso as well.
Yep.
And a couple years ago, I explored the extra dry cappuccinos and was a fan of those as well. So it's kind of fun,
Cool.
like for you and I, people that we weren't able to really explore this side of coffee without experiencing pain, to be able to do so with no issues.
Yeah, and that was honestly that was always just a big concern for me was I want to drink a latte and I want to drink a cappuccino, but it would just be agonizing for me after and just wasn't worth it. But now that I can do that, it's fun to try new things. But I always feel like cold brew is just tried and true. And just being in Southern California, it's just refreshing. It's more refreshing than drinking a hot latte for me. So if you put them in front of me, 9 out of 10 times I'm going for the cold brew. So
Yeah, cold brew for life, as we would say.
hell yeah, hell yeah,
And even to the point where now you have a cold brew business.
I
So
do.
let's get into it. Charlie Royal, tell me we haven't talked about this since you've launched it. So tell
Cool.
me everything. The name, how it got started, how long it took you. I want to know everything.
Okay, so Charlie Worrell, I came up with the name almost a decade ago. I when there was a point in my life where I didn't want to do music anymore. There was a band I was in that kind of just spoiled all of that, and I just needed to walk away from the industry. And I decided to start my own screen printing business in San Diego. And um, I I was contemplating starting my own clothing company just because I was able to print shirts and I could do it at a low cost. And I was trying to think of a name, and it's so cliche, but I literally had a dream one night about this character named Charlie Royal. I remember waking up, and I typically never remember my dreams, by the way. I remember waking up and throwing it in my notes, and I just kind of forgot about it for a bit. And then when I was working at the screen, when I was doing the screen printing, me and a buddy were trying to think of names, and I remember going in my notes and going, "Oh, I remember this name, Charlie Royal." And the name, as I thought about it more and started to develop like who Charlie Royal was, Charlie Royal is just like it's essentially me. It's essentially this kind of alter ego, kind of cartoon character of me. And when I was starting the coffee company, I didn't want to call it Martin Coffee or Nick Martin Coffee. Like that just I don't like that kind of attention, first of all. But I just thought there's a like this name is so playful, and Charlie for me relates to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is like my favorite movie ever. And like, but also his story, like this kid that kind of came from nothing, and all he had was like love in his heart, and he just wanted to take care of his family and his Uncle Joe. And um, Royal kind of is not that he comes from royalty. It's just it's just a fun it's just a fun name, and there was something that I wanted to like build with that. And that was also kind of the premise of starting Charlie Royal. Is it was just I wanted to start something that meant so much to me, that I had such a passion for, but I wanted to start it because it was more than just about coffee. It was about all the memories that I correlate with coffee, and the aspect of, again, like making something from scratch and sharing that with others. And that was really like the premise of why I wanted to start Charlie Royal. And some of my youngest memories as a human being, like as a child, are based around coffee. I remember like my grandfather making terrible Folgers coffee in the morning, but he would crush cinnamon sticks in it, and it was just this aroma that, like, as I think about it, like I can smell it, and like it takes me back to being at my grandparents' house and him making coffee for the family, and everyone sitting around a table and just talking. And it was brought to my attention recently that my babysitter growing up, and she babysat me before I even started school, um, it was brought to my attention that I would bring her coffee every morning. And I barely remember this, but I would tell my dad before he dropped me off in the morning to see her that we have to bring Maria, we got to bring her a coffee because I know that'll make her happy. So there's like this attachment to coffee that is beyond just coffee. It's something that I knew made others happy. It was something that I could give to somebody, and they would just bring a smile to their face. And I feel that is like the basis of Charlie Royal and why I want to start it. Is just it's something that's a lot deeper for me. And I just really got into it about 2 or 3 years ago, when that fan said, like, why don't you sell this? And I just thought that was really like interesting. Like, how would I start a coffee business? And I just I just dove in head first, and I was like, what do I have to do to start a coffee business? And the first thing that I worked on was the branding. I was like, with Charlie Royal, like, what can I do that separates us from every other coffee company? And I feel like a lot of it is the branding. Like, there's so many great coffees in the world, but how do I stand out in a crowd of thousands upon thousands of coffee companies? And I wanted to just focus on the branding with it being something fun and almost like nostalgic comic book based. Like we literally based a lot of the design off of Bazooka Joe comic books. Like just this really cool nostalgic feeling, so that when you saw Charlie Royal, you would want to try it just because it looks familiar, it looks nostalgic, and it doesn't look maybe intimidating like other coffees can look. That was something that I wanted to remove with Charlie. Was I didn't want to make, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a dick, but I didn't want to make like a snobby coffee company. I wasn't. I wanted to feel inviting, because I know that coffee can be kind of intimidating for people, especially making your own cold brew. And I've gone to a lot of coffee shops throughout the states, and sometimes I would experience some snootiness, like some snobbiness, talking about coffee because I didn't know enough about it, or the elevation of where the coffee was grown and where it was from in these regions. And I've gone into that more, but I wanted to remove that with Charlie Royal and just make it fun so that anyone could make it, and they could, even if they didn't like coffee, they could buy it for someone that they know enjoys coffee. And so we spent a lot of time on the branding and really developed this really fun character, fun packaging. And then when I started thinking about, well, I don't roast coffee, who am I going to get it from? I reached out to Dark Horse. I said, if I'm going to release my own cold brew, I'm going to go to the place that really introduced me to it and made me fall in love with it, but a roaster that had also become friends with, and I knew would be a high quality product. So I went straight to Brian at Dark Horse and showed him my ideas for Charlie Royal and doing packets, and immediately he was like, I'm on board. Like, let's start making some roasts, let's start figuring out what you want to do, what you want to taste like. And that was just so much fun. It was so much fun just getting these packages in from him of everything we'd go through on the tasting notes, and just getting it down to what we wanted. And it was just so much fun. But it all just started, it was just something that I wanted to continue having fun with. I still don't want this to feel like it's a job. It's supposed to be fun and working with people that have the same mentality. So I've been really lucky and fortunate that Dark Horse has been roasting a royal roast, which is phenomenal. And I wanted to do flavored coffee, so I reached out to my favorite company that makes my favorite flavored coffee, and they were down as well to to roast beans for us in whatever flavor we could think of. And it's just fun. And it goes back to like feeling like Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and this like, what can we do here? Like, this is like, let's make it taste like this, and where can we get? How can that match the packaging? And it's just like, it's a fun thing. Like, I feel like I'm in a chocolate factory, just having so much fun making this. So yeah, so we're about 3 weeks into launch now, and it took a few years to finally get off the ground. I've got some great partners involved that love Charlie just as much as I do, and it's been a wild 3 weeks since we launched, and I couldn't be more happy.
I mean, you sold out so quickly too. Was it like
It
a
was
couple
quick.
days?
Yeah, and that was not expected. Like we the kind of the fear going into starting this was we had nothing to go off of as far as what people want to buy from us, what people will be stoked on or not stoked on, what would be popular and not popular. Um, so we had a good inventory on everything, and just we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. And after a couple of weeks, maybe we'll kind of know what our customers are into. And we just saw from the get go that they loved everything. Like, there literally wasn't a product that wasn't popular, and the reviews have been really positive so far. And yeah, we did not expect to run out like we did. I think that maybe there was some expectations of maybe within like the first month we could sell out of a single product, and that we sold out of products in the first like 48 hours, something like that. It was
Oh my
crazy.
gosh, that's so awesome. I mean, I
Yeah.
was one of the first. I'm glad then I bought it like the day you guys launched, because if I had waited one more day, you would have been sold out.
Yeah, I'm stoked that you got some.
Yeah, and what I have to highlight too, this was amazing. I think I ordered it like the day you launched, and then the next day it was at my doorstep. I mean, it was literally the next day, and I remember messaging you like, Nick, like it got here so fast. How did you do this? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about it. Like that was every aspect of Charlie Royal was very thought out. It was like, if we're going to do this, every aspect of it has to be top notch. Like that, it has to be A plus across the board. So customer service and shipping was a top priority for all of us, which was great. It was like, if we can get orders out same day, let's do that, so that our customers can have the freshest beans possible, but also not wait. If you order something in the days that we live in now with Amazon Prime and the immediacy of everything, like we want to meet those expectations too. So
Mm-hmm. Well, I've tried both of them now. I cold brewed the praline parfait a couple days ago, and
awesome,
they're both fantastic. I love that
awesome.
with your original one, it's very very approachable. So if anyone's listening, if you're new to cold brew and don't know quite what you like yet when it comes to flavors, it's a very very approachable cold brew. I think anyone would like it, whether it's your first cold brew or your millionth. Just those very familiar, just chocolate nutty notes that you get. And then the
Oh, that's
praline
awesome.
parfait, I'm like you, I love flavored. Oh,
Turn
don't
my
get me
lights.
started.
Okay, go. Okay, go.
I love flavored coffee too. I'll admit, I love me a
Yeah.
good like hazelnut or when the holiday flavors come around. So when I saw the praline parfait, I love that you went with a different, unique flavor than vanilla or hazelnut, kind of one of the more common flavors. And it's so tasty. It's just like dessert in a cup. It's so good. I love it.
Cool. Honestly, it means a lot hearing that from you, and it's humbling because like I could have very easily just gone the cheap route with all of the beans so that we could have higher profit margins and not care as much about the product, but that was the top priority. Was everything. I want it to taste incredible, but it's also I want people to drink what I'm drinking, like what I've spent many months cupping and tasting through God knows how many coffees at this point. And I want to share what I feel is like the best tasting coffee and the most approachable, like you said. And it definitely means a lot coming from you because I know that you're very honest. Like you're honest when you try out coffees, and if you don't like something, like you say like that's not the best, you know. And I
I
appreciate it. And
try
even
to be a
if
lot nicer about it now.
no,
I
but
used to be really mean back in the day. It was bad.
no, I appreciate the honesty. And even if you said, "Hey, like this one was okay," like I would appreciate that because you're being honest about it. So it means a lot that you enjoy the coffees, and that's definitely something that was important for me with the Royal Roast, was it to be approachable, because I know that there's a lot of people that follow me that have never tried cold brew, and it was important to make a cold brew that was, like you said, approachable and not too complex, that an average every someone that doesn't drink coffee would be completely turned off of because of their palate. And that makes me always go back to when I first tried cold brew, and Dark Horse being that place, was it turned me on immediately. It was just so good and so approachable. So it made sense to have them involved and to go that route, so that people that may have never had it, or people that do love cold brew, can enjoy what we make.
I have to ask because this is a fear that I have had, and I'm sure there are people listening that are maybe looking to start a cold brew company in the beginning of their cold brew company and had this fear as well. Is starting a cold brew business in what has become a very saturated space, which is great for me as someone to explore, and for you as well. People that like to explore cold brew, it's awesome. But for someone that's looking to enter it, it's very daunting, and it's almost for me a turn off. So for you, did you ever have that fear? And if you did, how did you overcome it?
Absolutely. I had so much fear. This is something that I talk about recently on my YouTube channel and that I've been open about is starting a business is terrifying and it's also a business that is already massive. It like finding your place in such a massive industry, just speaking of cold brew, like it's intimidating. But I I think that my biggest thing with it is that I'm not trying to compete with other cold brew companies. I'm definitely not trying to compete with Starbucks, and I'm not trying to compete with these other cold brew businesses that I love, whether it be Dark Horse or even like Busy Coffee. The like I That's not what it's about. For me, it's it's not a competition, and I feel like for us to stand out in a crowd, I know that it came down to branding. It came down to visually like what is fun and the most striking, and also like what you mentioned with customer service. It's servicing a product that doesn't take forever to get, and just trying to make it as inviting as possible and not intimidating. You can go to our site, you can see the step-by-step process. It's on the back of the bag in a really fun way. I try to make it as simple and as easy as possible so that the whole entire process is approachable. And I think that a lot of coffee companies struggle with that. And I know that there's cold brew that I've tried that doesn't taste very good and the directions aren't very clear. And that was something that was difficult when I first started making cold brew, was finding like the best process to do it. And there were some that made no sense whatsoever, and some that when I would make it, it would just taste like water or it would be too strong. And I feel like through all of my years of making cold brew, that was such a integral part of starting this company, was making this as easy as possible for people to use. So, I'm not expecting Charlie Royal to blow up overnight. I do have high expectations and hopes for it, but just like anything else in this life that I've been a part of, like I have to grind, and that's like the fun part for me. And if I can just get one person to find out who we are and fall in love with it, like that means everything to me. So yeah, it's a brand new thing, and it's a long road, and we have a lot of things planned that we want to accomplish and do, and that's the fun part, is like getting to those milestones to be able to do that.
Well, if your first few days are any indication of the direction you're going, it's a very, very good one. That's for sure.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's really, really exciting. There's so many things, like my mind every single day, I'm like thinking of a million things that I want to do with it. And so I have to like filter that through my partners of like what's doable, what's achievable in this certain amount of time within a year, 3 months, whatever it might be, and just hitting the ground running. It's just fun.
You've got a lot coming up. You have, I mean, of course, Charlie Royal has been launched, right? And
Yep.
I didn't touch on it, but if you're someone that does like to drink hot coffee, you have coffee bags as well, not just cold brew kits. So
Yep.
you have that. You have the tour coming up. I mean, is there anything else in the future for you, or is that
It's
enough?
just, uh-oh, did I lose you? Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Um, that's that's really it. I think like the focus right now is my band. We just finished a record, so we're just starting to put everything together as far as when we're going to release it and tour on it. So I'm just eager to get back on the road and try coffee along the way and continue pushing Charlie Royal and doing more and more fun things with it. And obviously, we want to get tapped into the music world a lot more and getting involved with things within that, whether it be setting up tents at festivals and selling cold brew. A dream of mine is to can or bottle at some point in the future. So there's a lot of things that I want to achieve. But for the time being, yeah, it's the band and Charlie Royal. So
awesome. Well, it has been an honor speaking with you. It's been an honor to be your friend for these
yeah, I
years.
appreciate you. You're awesome. You are awesome.
Oh, just awesomeness back and forth to each other. Well, thank you so much. And also, too, I know a lot of people, you talk about your Instagram, but you also have, I want to really quickly touch on your YouTube, your video blog that you do.
Yeah. During the pandemic, I was like, I gotta find other things to do. And my wife was like, you should start a YouTube channel, like just post, guitar playthroughs of Siren songs. I was like, that actually sounds like fun. And then really just got into just sharing more about myself. I'm a very introverted person, so YouTube has kind of helped me, get outside of my comfort zone a bit and share more about myself and my life and just have fun with it. YouTube's kind of a terrifying place, and documenting yourself in video format and sharing that with the world it's kind of intimidating, but that's been fun for me to kind of tackle and overcome and just have fun with. So yeah, my channel, like I react to like K-pop bands on my channel. I vlog from the road or when I go to Disneyland with my wife. Like it just it's all kind of like random right now. So it's just been a fun thing for me to do.
But you do highlight cold brews on there as well, I've seen.
Yes, I do. Yeah. And I definitely want to do more Charlie Royal videos talking more about the coffee and making the coffee and just doing fun things with it. So,
So where can everyone find you? What is your Instagram handle, your YouTube? What's all the details?
I think my YouTube is, if you just search for Nick Martin, I think that I pop up. I think the URL is like Nick Martin is my name or something like that. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at No Direction Casa. And you can follow Charlie Royal on Instagram, which is at Charlie Royal, and charlieroyal.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Nick. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, you're awesome. It's amazing what you do. And obviously through this conversation, I've realized that you've opened doors for me in the cold brew world and, building friendships, you and I, but also you've opened doors with other brands and companies that I get to work with. So I appreciate everything that you do.
Well, next time you're in San Diego, you got a cold brew on me.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Awesome.